Captain Yuna stood on the bridge of her ship and looked at the blue world ahead. Earth, the third planet from a yellow star that humans called Sol. She had traveled for many months to reach this place. Her people, the Veltai, were known across the galaxy for making peace with new species. This was their gift to the universe. "Captain," said Hyon, her science officer, "we are getting more messages from the humans. They want to meet us," Yuna smiled. Her tall, thin body moved with grace as she walked to the communication station. The Veltai looked much like humans, but they were taller and lived much longer. Their skin had a slight blue tint and their eyes were larger. They had been traveling between stars for thousands of years. "What do the humans say?" Yuna asked. "They are excited to meet us. They have built a meeting place in space between their moon and their planet. They call it Luna Station," Hyon replied. Far below on Luna Station, Admiral Taiho looked at the alien ship through the large windows. It was beautiful. The ship had smooth curves and seemed to glow with soft light. Nothing like the hard metal ships humans built. This was humanity's first real contact with aliens, and Taiho felt both excited and nervous. "Admiral," said Dr. Minho, walking up beside him, "the translation computers are ready. We can talk to them now." Dr. Minho was Earth's best expert on alien life, even though he had never seen any real aliens before today. He was a thin man with kind eyes who had spent his whole life wondering if humans were alone in the universe. Now he knew they were not. "Good," Taiho said. "And our gifts?" "Ready, sir," said Jiwon from her station. She was in charge of all communications with the aliens. "We have our best art, music, and science ready to share." Taiho nodded. He was a careful man who had spent many years in Earth's space navy. He wanted this first meeting to go well. Humanity had dreamed of this day for centuries. The meeting place was a new space station built quickly just for this event. It had large rooms with windows showing the stars. The air was clean and everything was new and bright. Both humans and aliens would meet here in peace. Captain Yuna's shuttle docked with the station first. She stepped out with 3 of her crew members. They wore simple blue robes and carried small boxes, gifts from their world. "Welcome," Admiral Taiho said in English. The computers translated his words into the Veltai language instantly. "Thank you," Yuna replied. "We are happy to meet you at last." The first day went very well. The Veltai showed the humans crystals that held knowledge. They could store information for thousands of years without losing any of it. The humans showed the aliens their art, paintings, music, and stories that made the Veltai wonder at human creativity. Dr. Minho worked with Sunho, a Veltai scientist. They compared how life grew on their different worlds. The results amazed them both. Life on Earth and the Veltai homeworld had grown in very similar ways. "This is strange," Sunho said. "Our people are very different, but our brains work in similar ways." "Maybe all smart life grows the same way," Minho suggested. On the second day, they talked about trade. The Veltai offered to share technology that could help humans travel to other stars faster. They could also help humans live longer and cure diseases. In return, humans offered raw materials and their art. "Your people are very creative," Yuna told Taiho. "We have lived for thousands of years, but humans make new things we never thought of." "And your people are wise," Taiho replied. "You have seen so much and learned so much. We have much to learn from you." Jiwon worked hard to make sure both sides could understand each other perfectly. She set up systems so humans and Veltai could talk easily. She also listened to all the radio signals in the area to make sure nothing interfered with their talks. But as she worked, she noticed something odd. There were other radio signals nearby. They were not from the human ships or the Veltai ship. They used codes she did not recognize. "Admiral," she said to Taiho during a break, "I am picking up strange signals." "What kind of signals?" Taiho asked. "Military signals, sir. But they are not ours. And they are not from the aliens." Taiho frowned. "Are you sure?" "Yes, sir. Someone else is out there and they are trying to hide." Meanwhile, Captain Yuna was having her own worries. Her security chief Minji had found something troubling in their sensor readings. "Captain," Minji said privately, "our sensors show energy patterns that do not match human technology." "What do you mean?" Yuna asked. "There are ships out there using stealth technology. Very advanced stealth technology. The humans told us they just learned to travel between stars. But these readings suggest they have technology much more advanced than that." Yuna felt a cold fear in her stomach. In all her years of making first contact with new species, she had never seen anything like this. Either the humans were lying about their technology or someone else was watching. On the third day, the talks continued to go well. Both sides signed papers agreeing to trade and cultural exchange. They planned for human students to visit Veltai, schools, and for Veltai teachers to come to Earth. It seemed like the beginning of a beautiful friendship between two species, but Dr. Minho made a disturbing discovery while looking through Veltai historical records. "Sunho," he said, "can you tell me about other species your people have met?" "Of course," Sunho replied. "We have made peaceful contact with many species over the centuries. What happened to them? Are you still in contact?" Sunho paused. "Some of them we lost contact with over time. Space is big and sometimes civilizations just change." That evening, Minho looked up records of 17 species that the Veltai had contacted in the past 1,000 years. All of them had stopped communicating within 100 years of first contact. All of them had just disappeared from galactic records. As the third day ended, both Yuna and Taiho felt that something was wrong. The energy readings were getting stronger. The unknown signals were getting clearer. Both captains began to suspect that their peaceful meeting was being watched by unfriendly eyes. Yuna called her homeworld to report the strange readings. The message would take days to reach them and days for a reply to come back, but she had to warn them that something was not right. Taiho received a private message from Earth that night. It was marked with the highest security codes. After reading it, his face became very serious. He looked out at the stars and wondered if humanity was ready for what might be coming. Neither side knew it yet, but their peaceful first contact was about to become something much more dangerous. Hidden in the darkness of space, other ships were moving closer. Ships that belonged to neither humans nor Veltai, but to something much more threatening. The next morning would bring answers that neither species wanted to hear. The fourth day of contact started with exciting news. Dr. Minho and Sunho had made an amazing discovery. They were studying the brains of both species and found something incredible. "Look at this," Minho said, showing Sunho a computer screen. "Human brain development follows the same pattern as Veltai brain development." "That should be impossible," Sunho replied. "Our worlds are very far apart. We evolved separately for millions of years." "But look at the details," Minho continued. "The way our neurons connect, the way we process information, even the way we dream. It is almost like someone used the same blueprint to create both our species." Sunho studied the data carefully. His people lived much longer than humans, so he had seen many strange things in his long life. But this was truly unusual. "There are old stories among my people," Sunho said slowly. "Stories about ancient beings who traveled the galaxy long ago. They were called the Cedars. The stories say they left gifts on many worlds." "What kind of gifts?" Minho asked. "The gift of intelligent life. But these are just old stories. No one believes them anymore." Meanwhile, G1 was working hard to trace the mysterious signals she had detected. She spent hours going through all the communications in the area. The signals were definitely there, but they were very well hidden. "Admiral," she said to Taiho, "I have found more of those strange signals. They are using military codes I have never seen before." "Could they be from another human ship?" Taiho asked. "No, sir. These codes are completely different from ours, and the signals are coming from multiple locations around our meeting point." Taiho felt worried. He had hoped the strange signals were just interference or maybe a human ship that had gotten lost. But multiple signals meant multiple ships. And if they were not human or Veltai ships, then who did they belong to? On the Veltai ship, Security Chief Minji was making her own discoveries. She had been studying the energy readings around the meeting area for days. What she found made her very concerned. "Captain Yuna," she said during a private meeting, "I believe we are being watched by a large number of ships." "How many ships?" Yuna asked. "At least 20, maybe more. They are using stealth technology that is more advanced than anything the humans should have, but it is also different from our technology." Yuna felt a deep worry growing in her heart. In all her years of making peaceful contact, she had never encountered anything like this. "Could there be a third species involved?" "That is what I fear," Minji replied. Back on Earth, Fleet Commander Inwoo sat in a hidden command center deep underground. He was watching everything that happened at the meeting station, through secret cameras and sensors. His job was to protect Earth, and he took that job very seriously. Inwoo was reading reports from his spy ships when an urgent message came in. It was from his best scout captain, who was watching the edge of the solar system. "Commander," the message said, "we have detected a large fleet entering our system. They are not human, and they are not the friendly aliens." "This fleet is huge, sir. Over 200 ships, Inwu felt his blood turn cold. 200 ships was more than all of Earth's military combined. He immediately sent coded messages to all human military bases. If this was an attack, Earth needed to be ready. But Inwu had a secret. For 50 years, ever since humans had found ancient alien technology drifting in space, Earth had been preparing for this day. The preparation was so secret that even Admiral Taiho did not know about it. Dr. Minho and Sunho continued their research, not knowing about the approaching danger. They had started looking through Veltai historical records, trying to learn more about other species the Veltai had contacted. Sunho, Minho said, I have been studying your people's contact reports. You have met 17 different intelligent species in the past 1,000 years. Yes, that is correct, Sunho replied proudly. The Veltai are known for making peaceful contact with new civilizations. But what happened to those 17 species after contact? Sunho paused. What do you mean? I mean, are you still in contact with them? Do they still exist? Sunho thought for a long moment. Now that you mention it, we did lose touch with most of them over time. But that is normal. Civilizations change. Sometimes they become too busy with their own problems to maintain contact. All 17 of them? Minho asked. In every single case, contact stopped within 100 years. This made Sunho very uncomfortable. He had never thought about this pattern before. That does seem strange when you put it that way. Minho showed Sunho a computer analysis he had done. Look at this. Every species you contacted had brain development patterns similar to ours. They were all creative, intelligent, and peaceful, and they all disappeared from galactic records after meeting you. What are you suggesting? Sunho asked, though he was beginning to fear the answer. I think something happens to species after they make contact with the Veltai. Something bad. At that moment, Captain Yuna received an urgent message from her homeworld. The message had traveled for days across space, and the news it contained was terrifying. Captain, the message said, we have detected a massive fleet moving toward the Sol system. This fleet does not belong to us. Our long-range sensors show it is made up of ships from the Dominion Empire. Yuna's face went pale. Every Veltai knew about the Dominion, but they believed the Dominion was a distant threat that would never bother peaceful species like themselves. The Dominion fleet will reach the Sol system in less than 12 hours. The message continued. We do not know why they are coming, but their presence near a first contact situation cannot be good. Be very careful, Captain. Yuna immediately called for an emergency meeting with Admiral Taiho. She had to warn the humans about what was coming. Admiral, she said when they met privately, I have received bad news from my homeworld. A hostile fleet is approaching your solar system. What kind of hostile fleet? Taiho asked, though he suspected he already knew. The Dominion Empire. They are a very powerful and aggressive civilization. They conquer other species and force them to serve the Dominion. Taiho felt his worst fears coming true. How long do we have? Less than 12 hours, Yuna replied. And how many ships? Over 200. Taiho nodded grimly. This confirmed what his own scouts had reported. Earth was about to face the biggest threat in human history. But as they talked, Security Chief Minji made another disturbing discovery. The energy readings she had been tracking were not from the approaching Dominion fleet. They were from ships that were already here, hiding near the meeting station. Captain, she told Yuna urgently, the ships that have been watching us are not part of the main Dominion fleet. They are already here. They have been here since before we arrived. The terrible truth was becoming clear. The Dominion had not just discovered the meeting by accident. They had known about it from the beginning. The peaceful first contact between humans and Veltai had been a trap from the very start. Jiwan confirmed this when she finally decoded some of the mystery signals. Admiral, she told Taiho, I have broken some of the coded messages. The ships watching us have been reporting our every move to the approaching fleet. As the fourth day ended, both Yuna and Taiho realized they had very little time. The Dominion fleet would arrive soon, and when it did, both species would face a choice: surrender or fight. Neither captain knew if their people were ready for war. But they were about to find out. Captain Yuna paced back and forth in her private quarters. The message from her homeworld had shaken her deeply. She had always believed that the Veltai were free to travel the galaxy and make peaceful contact with new species. Now she was learning that might not be true. Another message arrived from the Veltai homeworld, and this one was even more disturbing. Captain, the message began, We have learned more about the Dominion fleet heading toward Sol. Our intelligence sources report that this is not a random attack. The Dominion has been following our diplomatic missions for centuries. Yuna sat down heavily. This was worse than she had imagined. The Dominion allows us to make first contact with new species, the message continued. They let us build trust and friendship. Then, when the new species feels safe, the Dominion arrives to protect their new Veltai allies by taking control of the new species' territory. Yuna felt sick. Her life's work making peaceful contact with new civilizations had been a lie. She and her people were not diplomats. They were bait in a trap. We have discovered that all 17 species we contacted in the past were conquered by the Dominion within 100 years of first contact. They were not destroyed, but they were made into servant races. Their freedom was taken away, and their resources were given to the Dominion. The message ended with instructions for Yuna to protect herself and her crew, but it was too late for that. The trap was already closing. On Luna Station, Admiral Taiho was receiving his own bad news. His scout ships had detected the first Dominion vessels entering the outer edge of the solar system. They were moving slowly, confidently, like predators who knew their prey could not escape. "Admiral," G1 reported, "I have intercepted more Dominion communications. They are demanding that all human space forces surrender immediately." "What exactly do they say?" Taiho asked. "They say that humanity is now under Dominion protection. All human military ships must power down their weapons and prepare to be boarded. Any resistance will result in the destruction of Earth's major cities." Taiho clenched his fists. These aliens thought humans would just give up without a fight. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Dr. Minho and Sunho were still working together, but now their research had taken on a desperate urgency. They were trying to find weaknesses in Dominion technology that might help both species survive. "Sunho," Minho said, "you told me your people have been in contact with the Dominion for centuries. What do you know about their ships and weapons?" "Not much," Sunho admitted. "The Dominion has always been friendly to us. They said they were protecting us from dangerous species in the galaxy. But now we know they were lying," Minho replied. "They were using you to find new species to conquer." Sunho felt terrible guilt. His people had unknowingly helped the Dominion conquer 17 civilizations. Now they were about to help conquer humanity too. "There must be something we can do," Sunho said. "Some way to fight back." "Maybe," Minho replied. "But first we need to understand exactly what we are facing." Security Chief Minji had been studying the energy readings from the hidden Dominion ships for days. What she discovered was frightening. "Captain," she told Yuna, "the ships that have been watching us are not just scouts. They are warships, big ones. Each ship is larger than our diplomatic vessel." "How many?" Yuna asked. "At least 40 ships," Minji replied, "and that is just the ones I can detect. There may be more." Yuna realized that even if the humans wanted to fight, they would be facing impossible odds. 40 Dominion warships plus the main fleet of over 200 ships meant humanity would be outnumbered by more than 10 to 1. But Admiral Taiho had a secret that neither Yuna nor the Dominion knew about. Deep underground on Earth, Fleet Commander Inwu was activating systems that had been hidden for 50 years. "Send the activation codes to all hidden bases," Inwu ordered his staff. Operation Silent Guardian is now active. Across the solar system, things that looked like asteroid mining stations began to change. Space platforms that appeared to be scientific research posts started powering up weapons that had been hidden inside them. Cargo ships that seemed to be carrying supplies to distant colonies opened up to reveal military equipment. Most importantly, in the darkness between the planets, something much bigger was preparing to reveal itself. 50 years earlier, human deep space probes had discovered an ancient alien ship drifting dead in space. Inside that ship, they found technology far beyond anything humans had ever seen. But they also found a warning message. The message was from a species that had been destroyed by the Dominion centuries ago. It warned that the Dominion used peaceful first contact as a weapon. It told how the Dominion would send client races like the Veltai to make contact, then arrive to protect their allies by conquering the new species. The message included detailed information about Dominion technology and tactics. It also included blueprints for weapons that could fight against Dominion ships. For 50 years, Earth's greatest scientists and engineers had worked in secret to build those weapons. They had prepared for this day, hoping it would never come but knowing it probably Would Captain Yuna called an emergency meeting with Admiral Taiho. She had to tell him the full truth about what was coming, Admiral, she said when they met. I must tell you something terrible. My people have been lying to you, though we did not know it ourselves. What do you mean? Taiho asked. We are not free agents making peaceful contact. We are tools of the Dominion Empire. Every species we have contacted has been conquered by the Dominion. Now it is humanity's turn. Taiho listened carefully as Yuna explained everything she had learned. When she finished, he was quiet for a long moment. How long do we have? He asked finally. The main Dominion fleet will be here in 6 hours, Yuna replied. But there are already 40 Dominion warships hiding around this station. They can attack at any time. And what will the Dominion demand? Complete surrender. Humans will become a client race like the Veltai. You will serve the Dominion and your resources will belong to them. Taiho nodded slowly. Captain Yuna, I need to ask you something important. If there was a way to fight back, would you and your people help us? Yuna was surprised by the question. Fight back? Admiral, the Dominion has over 200 ships. How could we possibly fight back? Just answer the question, please. If there was a way, would you help? Yuna thought about all the species her people had unknowingly helped the Dominion destroy. She thought about the lies her people had been told for centuries. She thought about the choice between freedom and slavery. Yes, she said firmly. If there was a way to fight, we would help. Taiho smiled for the first time in days. Good, because there is a way. What do you mean? Captain, humanity has not been completely honest with you either. We are not as helpless as we appear. Before Yuna could ask what he meant, alarms started ringing throughout the station. The first Dominion ships were dropping out of their hiding places and moving toward the diplomatic platform. Admiral, Jiwan reported urgently. The Dominion ships are powering up weapons. They are demanding immediate surrender. Captain Yuna, Taiho said calmly. You're about to see something that very few humans have seen. You are about to discover what humanity does when someone threatens our freedom. Outside the station windows, space itself began to shimmer and distort. Something was happening. Something that would change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. The Dominion fleet arrived like a dark storm. 200 massive ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system. Each ship was the size of a city, covered in weapons and armor. They moved in perfect formation, showing the discipline of an empire that had conquered hundreds of worlds. Leading the fleet was Supreme Admiral Gansu, a member of the Korthak species. The Korthak had been one of the first races conquered by the Dominion 300 years ago. Now they served as the Dominion's military commanders, having learned that serving the Empire was better than being destroyed by it. Open communication channels to all human vessels, Gansu ordered from his command ship. His voice was cold and mechanical, like someone who had done this many times before. Admiral Taiho received the communication on Luna Station. On his screen appeared a tall, thin alien with gray skin and 4 arms. Gansu's species had evolved on a heavy world, making them strong and tough. I am Supreme Admiral Gansu of the Dominion Empire, the alien said. Humanity is now under Dominion protection. You have 6 hours to surrender all military vessels and prepare your leaders for transport to Dominion space for processing. And if we refuse? Taiho asked. Then your major population centers will be destroyed as an example to other species who might think of resisting Dominion protection, Gansu replied matter-of-factly. The communication ended, leaving Taiho staring at a blank screen. Around him, the human crew looked frightened. They had never seen so many enemy ships before, but Taiho was not afraid. He activated a hidden communication channel that connected him directly to Fleet Commander Inwu on Earth. Commander, Taiho said quietly, it is time. Understood, Admiral, Inwu replied. Operation Silent Guardian is now fully active. Captain Yuna watched the exchange with growing confusion. Admiral Taiho seemed remarkably calm for someone whose species had just been threatened with extinction. Admiral, she said, I do not understand. How can you be so calm? The Dominion fleet is massive. Your people have never fought a space war before. Captain, Taiho replied with a small smile, there are many things about humanity that you do not know yet. Meanwhile, Dr. Minho and Sunho were working frantically to analyze the Dominion ships. Using the station's sensors, they studied the energy patterns and weapon systems of the approaching fleet. Their shields are very strong, Sunho reported. They can deflect almost any energy weapon, and their hulls are made of materials I have never seen before. What about their weapons? Minho asked. Plasma cannons, quantum torpedoes, and something called a planet cracker beam. Each of their large ships could destroy a city with one shot. Minho felt his heart sink. Even if Earth had hidden weapons, how could they fight against technology this advanced? But on Earth, Fleet Commander Inwu was not worried. In hidden bases around the world, scientists and engineers were making final preparations for humanity's ultimate weapon. Status report, Inwu demanded. All stealth ships are in position, his aide reported. The gravitational manipulation systems are online. All crews are ready. And our special surprise? The dimensional phase variance generators are fully operational. The fleet is ready to decloak on your order. Inwu nodded. Humanity had spent 50 years preparing for this moment. They had built weapons based on technology from the ancient alien warning ship, but they had also improved on that technology, making it even more powerful. Back on Luna Station, the situation was getting worse. The 40 Dominion ships that had been hiding near the station were now visible and moving closer. Each ship was 5 times larger than the human diplomatic vessel. Admiral, G1 reported, the local Dominion ships are demanding that we power down all systems and prepare to be boarded. What are your orders, sir? Asked the station commander. Before Taiho could answer, Security Chief Minji made an alarming discovery. Captain Yuna, she said urgently, I am detecting massive energy buildups from the Dominion ships. They are preparing to fire on the station. What? Yuna exclaimed. But we have not resisted them. It does not matter, Minji replied. I think they plan to destroy the station as a demonstration of their power. Supreme Admiral Gansu had indeed decided to destroy the diplomatic station. In his experience, new species always resisted at first. It was better to show them immediately what happened to those who did not cooperate. Target the human station, he ordered. Destroy it completely. Leave no survivors. Sir, his weapons officer asked. What about the Veltai ship? Our allies are still docked there. The Veltai have served their purpose, Gansu replied coldly. We no longer need them. Destroy them with the humans. Captain Yuna felt a cold shock when she realized what was happening. The Dominion was not just conquering humanity. They were disposing of the Veltai too. Her people had been used and were now being thrown away. Admiral Taiho, she said quickly, the Dominion is preparing to fire on this station. We have perhaps 2 minutes before they attack. I understand, Taiho replied. He touched a hidden control on his command chair. Fleet Commander Inwu, execute Silent Guardian immediately. With pleasure. Admiral, came the reply. What happened next would be remembered throughout the galaxy for centuries to come. Space around Luna Station began to shimmer and bend. The laws of physics seemed to twist as massive shapes began to materialize out of nothing. One by one, huge human warships appeared from complete invisibility. The ships were like nothing anyone had ever seen. They were not built like normal spacecraft. Instead of metal hulls, they seemed to be made of controlled energy fields. They glowed with strange lights and moved without any visible propulsion systems. Impossible, breathed Supreme Admiral Gansu as his sensors tried to make sense of what they were seeing. Within 60 seconds, 43 massive human warships had appeared around the Dominion fleet. Each ship was as large as the biggest Dominion vessels, and they crackled with energy that made Dominion sensors scream warnings about unknown technology. The largest human ship, named Terra's Resolve, positioned itself directly between the diplomatic station and Supreme Admiral Gansu's command vessel. Its hull rippled with gravitational fields that bent light around it. This is Fleet Commander Inwu of the Terran Defense Force, came a broadcast on all frequencies. This is humanity's formal introduction to galactic civilization. We have been listening. We have been learning, and we have been preparing. Captain Yuna stared out the station windows at the incredible sight. The human ships did not just look advanced, they looked like they came from the future. How? She whispered. How is this possible? Admiral Taiho stood beside her, watching the ships he had helped plan for 50 years. Captain, he said quietly, 50 years ago, humanity found an ancient ship drifting in space. Inside that ship was a warning about the Dominion and blueprints for weapons that could fight them. We have spent 5 decades preparing for this day. But your technology level, Yuna protested. You told us you were just learning to travel between stars. We lied, Taiho admitted. Just like the Dominion made you lie to us. The difference is that we chose to lie to protect ourselves. The Dominion forced you to lie to destroy others. Supreme Admiral Gansu was trying to understand what he was facing. His sensors showed energy readings that should be impossible for such a young species. How many ships? He demanded of his crew. 43 visible ships, sir. But our sensors are detecting gravitational anomalies throughout the system. There may be many more ships we cannot see. Gansu felt the first hint of doubt he had experienced in decades of conquest. This was not going according to plan. The moment of truth had arrived. Two fleets faced each other in the darkness of space. The Dominion Empire's 200 ships of conquest and humanity's 43 vessels of defiance. But the numbers were deceiving. Fleet Commander Inwu's voice echoed across every communication channel in the solar system. His words were calm, but they carried the weight of 50 years of preparation. Supreme Admiral Gansu, Inwu said, you have made a critical error. You assumed that humanity would be as helpless as the other 17 species you conquered. You were wrong. On his command ship, Supreme Admiral Gansu tried to maintain his composure. He had conquered dozens of worlds for the Dominion. No primitive species had ever resisted successfully. Commander Inwu, Gansu replied, you may have hidden ships, but you are still outnumbered 5-1. Surrender now, and your people will be allowed to live as servants of the Dominion. Servants? Inwu's voice carried a hint of dark humor. Admiral, you do not understand what you are facing. These are not just 43 ships. This is the concentrated paranoia of an entire species that has spent 50 years preparing for exactly this moment. The first shots were fired by the Dominion. Plasma beams and quantum torpedoes launched from 20 different ships, all targeting Terra's resolve. The weapons were powerful enough to destroy mountains. But something impossible happened. The human ship did not explode. Instead, the plasma beams seemed to bend around it, and the torpedoes simply passed through its hull without causing any damage. What kind of shields are those? Gansu demanded. His science officer studied the readings frantically. Sir, they are not using shields. Their ships exist in some kind of dimensional phase variance. They are here but also not here at the same time. Captain Yuna watched from Luna Station in amazement. Admiral Tejo, what technology are your ships using? 50 years ago, we found an ancient alien ship, Taiho explained. Inside were the blueprints for dimensional manipulation technology. We spent 5 decades perfecting it. Our ships can exist partially outside normal space. Conventional weapons cannot touch them. The human fleet began its counterattack, and it was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The human ships did not fire energy beams or missiles. Instead, they manipulated gravity itself. Terra's resolve pointed at a Dominion cruiser and activated its main weapon. Space around the enemy ship began to contract. The Dominion vessel was crushed like paper as artificial gravity compressed it into a ball of twisted metal. Another human ship created a miniature black hole that pulled 3 Dominion vessels together, smashing them into each other before the black hole evaporated harmlessly. A third human ship used gravitational waves to literally tear a Dominion battleship in half, breaking the molecular bonds that held its hull together. Impossible, Supreme Admiral Gansu shouted. No species has technology like this. But the worst was yet to come for the Dominion fleet. Dr. Minho, working with Sunho on Luna Station, had found a critical weakness in Dominion ship design. Admiral Taiho, Minho reported, I have discovered something important. All Dominion ships use the same type of shield generator. If we can create a specific frequency of gravitational pulse, we can overload their shields completely. Send that information to Fleet Commander Inwu immediately, Taiho ordered. Within minutes, all human ships began broadcasting gravitational pulses at the exact frequency Dr. Minho had calculated. Across the Dominion fleet, shield generators began to overload and explode, shields failing across the fleet. The Dominion science officer reported in panic. All ships are vulnerable. Supreme Admiral Gansu realized that his mighty fleet was being destroyed by a species that was supposed to be primitive and helpless. In 10 minutes of fighting, he had lost 60 ships. At this rate, his entire fleet would be gone within an hour. But Fleet Commander Inwu was not finished. He opened communications to every ship in both fleets. Admiral Gansu, Inwu said, you have a choice. Order your remaining ships to withdraw immediately, or we will demonstrate why no one should ever threaten humanity's freedom. You cannot defeat all of us, Gansu replied, though his voice now held doubt. Watch us, Inwu said simply. What happened next would become legend throughout the galaxy. Every human ship activated their most powerful weapon simultaneously. They created a network of gravitational fields that stretched across the entire battle area. The remaining Dominion ships found themselves trapped in a web of artificial gravity. They could not move, could not escape, and could not fight back. They were completely helpless. This is what happens, Inwu announced to the galaxy, when you mistake humanity's desire for peace as a sign of weakness. Supreme Admiral Gansu stared at his tactical display in shock. His entire fleet was immobilized. The humans could destroy every ship at will, but they were choosing to show mercy instead. "What do you want?" Gansu asked, his voice now much smaller. "We want you to carry a message back to the Dominion Empire," Inwu replied. "Tell them that Earth is not available for conquest. Tell them that any species seeking genuine peace will be welcomed here. But those who come with conquest in mind will face the same fate you have faced today." Captain Yuna watched the one-sided battle with amazement and growing hope. For the first time in centuries, someone had successfully resisted the Dominion Empire. "Admiral Tejo," she said, "my people have been slaves to the Dominion for hundreds of years, even though we did not know it. We have helped them conquer 17 species. If humanity can truly fight the Dominion, will you help us free those species?" "Of course," Tejo replied. "That is what friends do for each other." The battle was over. Half the Dominion fleet had been destroyed, and the other half was trapped and helpless. Supreme Admiral Gansu had no choice but to accept defeat. "We will withdraw," he said finally. "But the Dominion Empire has 1,000 fleets. They will not ignore this defeat." "Let them come," Fleet Commander Inwu replied. "Humanity has been preparing for 50 years. We can prepare for 50 more. And next time we will not be alone." He was right. Within days, the news of humanity's victory spread throughout the galaxy. Species that had been hiding from the Dominion for centuries began to contact Earth. They wanted to join the alliance against the Empire that had terrorized the galaxy for so long. Dr. Minho and Sunho began planning missions to find and free the 17 species that had been conquered after making contact with the Veltai. Captain Yuna volunteered to lead those missions, determined to undo the harm her people had unknowingly caused. The Dominion fleet limped away from the Sol system, carrying news of their defeat back to their masters. For the first time in centuries, the Empire had been forced to retreat. On Luna Station, the diplomatic talks resumed, but now they were very different. Instead of discussing trade between two species, they were planning the liberation of an entire galaxy. Admiral Taiho stood at the observation deck, looking out at Earth's blue oceans and white clouds. The planet looked peaceful and beautiful, just as it always had. But now the galaxy knew that this peaceful world was protected by guardians who were willing to fight for freedom. "Admiral," Jiwan said, joining him at the window, "do you think the Dominion will try to attack us again?" "Probably," Taiho replied. "But they will think twice before doing it, and they will think 3 times before threatening any of our allies." Captain Yuna approached them, her face serious but hopeful. "Admiral, I have a question. How did humanity know to prepare for the Dominion, the ancient ship you found? Who left that warning?" "We may never know for certain," Taiho admitted. "But Dr. Minho has a theory. He thinks it was left by the last survivors of one of the 17 species you contacted. They knew they were going to be conquered, so they built a ship with a warning and sent it into deep space, hoping someone would find it and be ready. So in a way," Yuna said slowly, "one of the species my people helped destroy ended up saving both our peoples. And hopefully many more," Taiho agreed. As the days passed, Earth transformed from a hidden world into the center of a growing alliance. The diplomatic station became humanity's first embassy to the galaxy, with representatives from dozens of species coming to discuss mutual defense against the Dominion. The human fleet remained mostly hidden, but everyone now knew it was there. The ships that had materialized out of nowhere became symbols of hope for oppressed species and symbols of warning for potential aggressors. Fleet Commander Inwu established a new doctrine for Earth's military. "We will always hope for peace, but we will always be prepared for war. And we will fight not just for our own freedom, but for the freedom of anyone who asks for our help." The first contact between humanity and the Veltai had indeed been peaceful. It had started with hope, friendship, and the promise of a better future. The appearance of the Dominion fleet could have ended that hope, but instead, it revealed something that would change the galaxy forever. Sometimes the greatest guardians of peace are those who are most thoroughly prepared for war. Earth's blue skies remained peaceful and beautiful, but now they were protected by ships that could appear from nowhere when needed, crewed by humans who had learned that the price of freedom is eternal vigilance and the willingness to fight for what is right. The galaxy would never be the same.